And I'll just say we will talk to Chip Kelly and the quarterbacks tomorrow. We won't talk. We generally don't get to talk to anybody at check-in day today at the hotel. Ryan Day said after the first practice, he'd like to name a quarterback within the first 2 weeks. He said like 7 to 10 days, then the first 2 weeks, which would coincide with perhaps I'm going to assume the first scrimmage, which will be on Saturday, that's the end of the second full week of practice. But then we don't talk to anybody after that until the following Thursday. So we might hear something then, which would be the 15th when we talk to the head coach and both coordinators. So maybe then, which would be a pretty early announcement. That would be even earlier than Justin Fields or CJ Stroud. I believe they're both around like the 18th or 19th of August. But I also don't think Ryan Day wants to go into a situation like he had last year. And I just wrote about this on BuckeyeHuddle.com about the quarterbacks. And you can't, as he said, you can't force it. Somebody actually has to win it. But Will Howard's been playing pretty darn well. And that running threat, he gives them some, it's an interesting long speed. It takes a little while for him to get to full speed. But then when he gets there, he'll surprise you. I mean, he's got 3 rushes in his career of over 70 yards, including one against Texas.
Okay, so let's stay right there. I don't know why this comp never came to me before, and it may be way off, but I don't think it's way off. So you guys have seen all these guys play quarterback at Ohio State, and you saw them in practice. We've all seen them, of course. They actually televised the game. So yes, we all get to see them eventually, but you guys see them in practice, and I'm sure the years run together in the evaluations, but maybe you remember a wow moment here from Justin Fields or a CJ Stroud or somebody of that caliber. But now when I think Will Howard, I think JT Barrett. See JT Barrett?
I think with a bigger JT Barrett, with I'd say a bigger arm, a stronger arm, because I had somebody else asking me like, well, when you compare his speed, because you go 80 yards or whatever it was in practice, and immediately people are like, oh wow, is it Justin Fields or is it JT Barrett? I'm like, it's more JT Barrett. And you remember the 86-yard run against Minnesota took a little while, but also JT Barrett was 2,000 career yards rushing at Ohio State, and he had several, probably over a dozen 100-yard rushing games in his time. So I'm thinking they're not going to run him as much as that. And when Ryan Day talks about running the quarterback, he compared it to, or somebody compared it to the way CJ Stroud ran against Georgians. Is like, yeah, like that, which is I don't think that's. I'm not going to say Ryan Day is wrong, but I don't know how much reading of keeping the read CJ did in that game. I'm trying to think back in terms of like that was a bunch of scrambling and keeping plays alive. Whereas this year they're going to be doing a lot of reading. So much of the practices that we've seen, almost everything like has a read attached to it in terms of a quarterback could keep it. There's so much RPO going on right now as well. So the aspect of the quarterback running is very much alive in this, or the possibility of him running is very much alive in this, because on so many plays they could keep it, whereas they didn't do that with Kyle. It was not a threat. It was not a threat with CJ Stroud. So now that it is a threat, a defense has to worry about it. It doesn't mean you have to run Will Howard 15 times like you would JT Barrett, but you might run him 7, and it might be really effective.
Yeah, I agree. I think Howard's going to be just fine in that role. What I saw yesterday, what I love is the timing. I mean, after they've run the backs and thrown the ball and whatever, and they've worn the defense down, now is the time to strike them with that quarterback run. And I think Ohio State's done a wonderful job when they've had quarterbacks who are willing to do that with that weapon. So, I'm eager to see how Howard can impact the bottom line with his feet this season. And again, with Henderson and Judkins, I don't know that he's going to need to do it a whole lot by design, but we'll see as they get into it. And there'll be time and place where it has to happen, and he'll get the job done, I think.
So I bring that up because I think it's an apt comp. I think they're comparable players. Again, Tony pointed out the differences, and any Buckeye fan with an ounce of integrity should have huge amounts of admiration for JT Barrett and what he did for this program. Absolutely. He was first rate all the way. Exceptional guy, exceptional teammate, leader, all of that. However, we do understand his limitations and we do know the goals of this team. And so I bring it up in that aspect as well, in terms of Will Howard getting to the promised land. So.
And I think go back to the 2016 bowl game, playoff game, I guess, right, against Clemson, when they had no concerns. Clemson's defense had no concerns about JT Barrett throwing on them, and that was pretty eye opening when we talked to them beforehand, and they're like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." And you saw they went out and shut out the Buckeyes. So it's like there was a limit to what he could do, which I think is what gets remembered a lot rather than all of the things that he did do. Although now, you know, the wins against Michigan are starting to rise back up because they've been not as prevalent in recent history for obvious reasons.